Good morning, everyone. Good in air. Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Rosh Chodesh is tonight and tomorrow. Hashem Ba'alinu Latova. Nisan, the month of Geula. Rosh Hashem, we will see the Geula crow of Mary Menu. Amen. Like now, how cool would that be? Today's shiur is the Eloi Nishmas Rushbas Sucha Kohen Aaron Achbas Sucha Kohen Nishum Marcha B'Shepsel Bracha Saba Shmuel Lev and Biram Moshe Ben Yosef Ben that shows to have an aliyah and Refuah Shlema for Yisrael Ben Rachel Leah Rachel B'Spesel Zelda Avram Yisrael Ben Risha Chaya Bas Doba Bela Refuah Shlema B'Soch Shachal Yisrael and as a schus for Tzvi Noach Ben Bracha Rachel Leah. Speak for bracha v'atzlacha, all his endeavors, and also a schus for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael and around the world, all the issues that they need. May Hashem keep them safe and take care of them. Okay, so this next Perek Hey is a short Perek, but it's complicated. It's only 6 mishnayos, but it's a little bit of an issue. So by way of intro, I'm going to try to decomplicate the Perek with an introduction. When a yavam does yibum with his Yevamos, okay, so Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Reuven dies. Shimon does yibum with Reuven's wife. Okay, all of her co-wives are released and free to marry others. Okay, once that yibum bond, so assuming Reuven had multiple wives, let's say Reuven had 2 or 3 wives. Shimon does yibum with one of the wives, all the others can go free. Also, if Shimon does Chalitza with one of Reuven's wives, then the other widows are free to go marry whoever they want. Okay. In both of these cases, only the brother who actually does yibum or chalitza is forbidden to marry the relatives of the widow with whom he gave chalitza. So again, so Reuven had 2 or 3 wives. Let's call them whatever. Just give them a name. A number of the names. Okay, so the wife that he does yibum with, obviously, is usher to the wife's sisters, who are not the wives of Reuven. And the wife that he does chalitza with, which means it's the same way they either did yibum or he did chalitza. Let me choose to do chalitza with that wife, with wife number 1. Okay, he is usher to marry any of the relatives of the widow that he did chalitza with. Okay. However, the other brothers, let's see, Levi and Yehuda, they can marry the Chalutza's relatives. They can, but the actual yavam cannot. Now, the one who did the brother, let's say Shimon did Chalitza with Reuven's first wife, he can marry the relatives of the second and third and fourth wives. Yeah, how many wives Reuven had? Shimon can marry the relatives of those other wives. He can't marry those particular. He can't marry the actual wives of Shimon once he does chalitza with one of them. He cannot marry any of the other wives of Reuven, but he is allowed to marry their relatives. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that's going to be a little bit of intro. Fine. Here we go. Mishnah Aleph, Perek Hey Mishnah Aleph. So there are four ways for a um, there are four actions that a yavam can take that will affect the status of the widow. Number one is giving a get. Number two is performing chalitza. Three is making maamer, and the fourth one is doing yibum. Two of those are deraisa, right? Doing yibum and chalitza are deraisa, and two are derabanan, which is giving a get, and doing maamer. Those are the derabanan. So we're going to talk about these now. Rabbi Gamliel says, "Ain't get acha get." There is no significance to a get after a get, and if a yavam gave a get to one of his brother's widows, and then he gave a get to her co-wife, the second get has no effect, and he is permitted to marry her relatives. That's because the first get already removed as much of the yibum bond uh, um, between the yavam and the widows as a get can remove. So the second get does nothing. Lo maamer achar maamer. Nor is there any significance to a maamer after a maamer. So if a yavam made maamer with one widow and then did so with and then did maamer with a second widow, the second act of maamer is meaningless, and he's permitted to marry her relatives. The law be'ila achar be'ila, nor is there any significance to bia after bia, since he fulfilled the mitzvah of even with the first one, and he erased the yibum bond. Then the second act has no value whatsoever. Lo chalitza achar chalitza, and nor is there any significance to a chalitza after chalitza, since the first one completely removed the bond. In all those four cases, the first time you do it, you remove that yibum bond, and the second time with the second person, it's irrelevant. The Chacham disagree with Rabbi Gamliel. They say yesh gerach get. There's significance to a get after a get, since even after the first get, there's still a yibum bond. According to the Chachamim, the second get ushers him to marry the relatives of the second widow. The get does not remove the biblical yibum bond, and the yavama still needs chalitza. Therefore, the Chachamim therefore viewed the first get as removing only part of the yibum bond. The second get can therefore take effect on part of the bond that remains, according to the Chachamim. Yesh maamer achar maamer, and there is significance to a maamer after a maamer. By the same token as they had by yibum, the first maamer did not completely erase the yibum bond between the yavam and the widows, since even after the maamer, she still needs yibum. This maamer is only derabanan. Therefore, there's still room for the second maamer to take effect on the second widow, according to the Chachamim. Aval lo achar be'ila v'lo achar chalitza klum. But after bia or the chalitza, there's nothing. There's no yibum related act that can take effect because yibum or chalitza, they remove the yibum bond completely because it's then deraisa. For right. So therefore that's good. So Chaim, they agree with Rabbi Gamliel regarding Bia and Chalitza, but they disagree regarding the get and maamer. Okay, Mishnah Beis. Mishnah Beis. So Ketzad. How is this so? How does the halacha play out in all the possible cases where two different acts are performed by the same brother and widow? So the Mishnah starts off. Okay, number one, asa maamer b'yevimto. If he made maamer with his yavama, thereby creating a rabbinic marriage with her, and then he gave her a get, which ended this maamer marriage. She still needs chalitza from him to be free to marry others, because the chalitza is a din deraisa. Maamer is a din derabbanan. So, so the get can only help with the maamer, which is a derabanan on a derabanan, but she needs chalitza to release her from the din deraisa. Number two, asa maamer with chalitza. If he made maamer with her and then chalitza, right? Which means that the chalitza to get, she still needs to give him in order to release her from the minor marriage. Since she already has chalitza, she is free to marry others once she receives the get. So even though the din derabanan, sorry, even though the din der, the even though the deraisa yibum bond was removed with chalitza, the din derabanan of maamer is still in effect even afterwards until it is removed with a get. Once the rabbanon, once the marriage on the rabbanon level takes effect before chalitza, it remains in place even after chalitza. That's number two, and number three. Asa maamer ba'o. If he made maamer and then lived with her, this is yibum as it should be done. Um, even though even though on the deraisa level, he does not need to do any sort of maamer in order to take his yavam as a wife. The rabbanim put in a gezerah that he has to do. They must do maamer, which is, as we explained earlier in the week, that it's like an erisin, but it's only for Yevamos. So that they have to be like some sort of engagement. Mishnah Gimel. Nasan get maamer. If he first gave her a get, if he first gave a get to his yavam and then made maamer with her, tzricha get with chalitza. She needs to get a second get at chalitza. Why? Because the get is to end the maamer marriage, and the chalitza is to remove the deraisa yibum bond that is still in place. Number two, nasan get. If he gave her a get and then had be with her, she needs a get and chalitza. Although once he gave her a get, he was usher to be with her on the deraisa level. The bia was a valid yibum, so they are now married, even though he was wrong for doing that. He must therefore end this marriage by divorcing with a get. On the other hand, since this bia was usher, the Chachamim treat it as a flawed yibum, which does not fully remove the yibum bond. Therefore, as a din derabanan, she still needs chalitza. Nasan get v'chalatz. If he gave her a get and then performed chalitza with her, ein acher chalitza klum. There is nothing after chalitza. That is, there's no yibum related action that takes effect after chalitza, since the chalitza completely removed the yibum bond. Chalatz, if he performed chalitza with her, v'asa maamer, and then either made maamer with her, or nothing get, or he gave her a get, ubal, or he had be with her, or baal, or if he first had be with her, v'asa maamer, and then he made maamer with her, or nothing get, or he gave her a get, the chalatz, or he performed chalitza with her, and acha chalitza klum. There is nothing after chalitza. None of the three acts that followed the chalitza had any effect, because the chalitza completely removed the yibum bond. Similarly, none of the three acts that followed bia had any effect, because the bia completely erases the yibum bond as well. Achas yivama, achas yavam, achas yivama, achas yavam echad. Excuse me. The rules we have learned in the previous Mishnah is they apply both to the yavam involved with one yavam. For achash, the Yevamos, the yavam achad, the yavam echad. Let's try it again. The rules we have just learned in the previous Mishnahs, they apply both to one yavama involved with one yavam. V'achash, the Yevamos, the yavam echad, as well as the two yavamas involved with one yavam, where the yavam performs the first act with one yavama and the other act with her co-wife. So Mishnah Dalet continues with this. It's a case, it's a house, so how does this play out if all the possible cases of a yavam performing one act with each of the two widows? So number one, Asa, maamer bezu. If he made maamer with this one and then made maamer with that one, so he made maamer both of them. Srichin shnei gittim chalitza. They need two gittim and one chalitza. Each widow needs to get to end her maamer marriage with both of them. They each need a get to end her maamer marriage with the yavam. And one of them needs chalitza to remove the din deraisa from both of them. Only one needs to do chalitza, but both need a get from the maamer. Number two, maamer bezu, the get lezu. If you made maamer with this one and gave a get to that one, right? Tzricha get with chalitza. So the one who had maamer needs a get, and only one of them needs chalitza, right? Because the get ends the maamer marriage, and the chalitza ends the raisa din of yibum. Number three, maamer bezu bal ezu. If he made maamer with one of them and then he lived with the other one, srichos shnei gittim chalitza. They need two gittin and one chalitza. One get is needed to end the maamer marriage, and the other one to end the yibum marriage, because he had be with her. So therefore, now once she has be, now she's his wife, and needs to get to get out of that marriage. However, since the bia was flawed, she also needs chalitza on top of the get. Number four, maamer is bezu v'chalitza. So if you made maamer with this one and give chalitza to that one, harishonas we could get, then the first one needs to get to end the marriage, and then since he already did chalitza with the second one, nothing further is required on that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about another case of a get followed by another act. So number one, get lezu and get lezu. If he gave a get to this one and a get to that one, they need chalitza from him to remove the yibum bond, the raisa. Number two, get lezu ubal ezu. If you gave a get to one of them, and then you have bia with the second one, tzricha get the chalitza. And the second widow needs a get and the chalitza to get to end the raisa marriage that was created by the bia, and chalitza because the bia was flawed, because it was usher on account of the get to the first widow. Once he gives a get to the first one, he can't do yibum with the second one. And a flawed bia does not fully erase the yibum bond. Number three, get lezu maamer bezu. If you give a get to this one and made maamer with that one, tzricha get v'chalitza, then the second widow needs a get and chalitza. It needs a get to end the maamer marriage, a chalitza to remove the raisa yibum bond. And number four, get lezu v'chalitza zu. If you gave a get to this one, perform chalitza with that one, ein acher chalitza klum. There's nothing after chalitza, and this case is done. And the last Mishnah for today, no, sorry, there's two more. Hey above, my bad. Mishnah Hey, Chalatz, if you perform Chalitza with one Yavam and then perform Chalitza with the other one, did Chalitza twice. Oh, Chalatz, or if you perform Chalitza with one Yavam, us a maamer nasan get a ball, and then either he made maamer, he gave a get, or he had bia with the second one. Oh, ball, or he had bia with one yavam and then had bia with the second one. Oh, ball, or he had bia with one of them. Us and maamer nasan get and then he made maamer, or gave a get, or performed chalitza with the second one. And after chalitza klum, there's nothing after chalitza since chalitza totally removes the yibum bond. Therefore, once chalitza is performed, the get or second chalitza that follows it do not make the second Yevamos relatives also to the yavam, and the maamer or bia after chalitza do not create a marriage with her. Similarly, once he has bia with the first widow, the yibum bond is completely erased. Whatever act was performed, the second Yevama has no effect whatsoever. Um, so ben yavam echad l'shtei yavamas. To these halachas they apply whether the two acts were done by one yavam to two yavamas, right? So one man to two women, ben shnei yavamin yavama achas, or whether they were done by two yavams to one yavama, meaning that. Okay, so you have Reuven and Shimon. Okay, so uh, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven dies, right? So if Shimon does maamer with one of Reuven's wives, and then Levi does maamer with the same widow, with the same wife, both brothers must give her a get because since both maamers created a rabbinic marriage, and she can't be married to two people, she still needs Chalitza to remove the rice yibum bond. Okay, so they had maamer from both, but she still needs to get two gets and one Chalitza. The same applies that these acts were performed by two yavams to two yavamas. So what? So Shimon did maamer with one of Reuben's wives, and Levi did maamer with the second wife. So they both need a get, and one needs Chalitza. Okay, Mishnah Vav, the lesson for today. Going back to what we discussed in Mishnah Gimel, Chalatz, if a Yavam performed Chalitza with his Yevama, v'asa maamer nasan get ubal, and then either made maamer with her, gave her a get, or had be with her, or ball, or if he first had be with her, v'asa maamer nasan get v'chalatz, and then either he made maamer with her, gave her a get, or performed Chalitza with her, and after Chalitza klum. There's nothing after Chalitza. Chalitza completely removes the yibum bond, and none of those other acts take effect on her. Bein b'tchila, this applies whether he performed chalitza at the beginning, before any other act, bein be'emsa, or in the middle, meaning that he gave a get, then performed chalitza, and then did maamer, bein b'sof, or in the end, after he gave a get, then he made maamer, and then chalitza. In all cases, once chalitza is done, it completely removes the yibum bond, and any maamer after that has no effect. But with respect to bia, this mashi betchila, when it is performed at the beginning before other acts, and there's nothing that takes effect after it because bia totally erases the yibum bond. But if it's performed in the middle, meaning that he gave a get, and then he had bia with her, then he made maamer, ubesof, or at the end, right? So first he had bia with her, and then he gave her a get, and then he had bia with her after giving a get and making maamer. Then there is something after it. The other acts do take effect. So if he makes maamer afterwards with one of the widows, it does take hold because the bia was fought. And as discussed before, a flawed bia does not completely erase the yibum bond. The Nechemia argues, and he says, Achas be'ila, achas chalitza, with both bia and chalitza, the halacha is the same. Bein betchila, bein be'emsa, bein besof, whether it's performed at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, and acharei klum, there's nothing after it. He holds that the Nechemia were actually not strict regarding a flawed bia, and completely erases the even bond, just as chalitza does. Thank you for joining us. We'll continue tomorrow with Perek Vav. Have a wonderful day and a good Rosh Chodesh.